Well, hello everyone. It's been a little bit, but I am back. And so is the subject of one of my previous videos, the NASCAR team known as NY Racing. That, after select starts in the 2022 season with driver Greg Biffle, seemingly disappeared, never to be seen again. For some background, the NY Racing team is a non-chartered NASCAR team owned by the businessman Jonathan Cohen, originally known as Team Extreme Motorsports, started back in 2009. Throughout its history of sparse race starts, the very small team has not gotten much in the way of results with backmarker machinery and subpar drivers. If you do want to know more info about the team's history, check out the other video I have made on the topic last spring. It's not necessary to understand the goings-on in this video, but I would recommend watching it just to get some basic context. In 2022, the team rebranded to NY Racing from its previous moniker of Team Extreme Motorsports, with a whole new pure black look to boot. And despite seasoned driver Greg Biffle at the wheel, results were lacking, and the team dropped off the entry lists after the 10th race of the season at Talladega. For the rest of 2022, and the whole of the 2023 season, NY Racing stayed dormant, not announcing any plans to race that season or beyond on any of their social media profiles or their website, which funnily still says under construction since 2022 and hasn't seemed to have been updated since that date either. So, coming into the 2024 NASCAR season, I, and presumably no other NASCAR fans, expected to see NY Racing returning to the track, and as the clash came and went, the quiet continued. Until the 12th of February, when the NY Racing hauler, kitted out with a new graffiti-style paint job, which in my opinion looks pretty sick, was spotted by Instagram user NASCAR Rumor Nostalgia at a gas station or truck stop, presumably somewhere in Florida. Later that day, the Daytona 500 entry list was released, with the 44 car of NY Racing on the list, and 100 Coconuts as a sponsor, proving that they were back in NASCAR. But a car needs a driver, and as Greg Biffle's name and signature were on the hauler, presumably he would be driving, right? But after him, or one of his agents seeing this, he put out a statement on Twitter reading, "Due to unfulfilled contract obligations from 2022 for myself and the team, I have made a hard decision not to participate in any races, until the prior contractual obligations have been fulfilled." These vague contractual obligations being hinted at were him not being paid for his time in the car. Hey, I'm just saying, if you're the owner of a cash-strapped small-time NASCAR team, maybe hiring an inexperienced and valuable driver may have not been the best bet, especially if you don't even have the money or the will to pay him. But what do I know? I'm not a NASCAR team owner. Anyways, this left the 44 car without a driver, with Biffle's name and signature stripped off the car. Many rumors circulated, such as one from the Twitter account Nastolito, saying on the afternoon of February 13th that a driver for the 44 car had been found, and that they were a former Truck Series champion. I'm not entirely sure if this was just a straight-up lie resulting from false information, or if a deal was almost reached with a truck champion that fell through, as the driver announced to drive the 44 later that day was JJ Yeley, who while may have an F1 championship under his belt, is without a Truck Series 1. Yeley actually drove for NY Racing in their past, when they were known as Team Extreme Racing, and so his connections to the team most likely got him the seat for the 500. In an interview the day of the announcement, Yeley outlined the team's plan to make the 500 for the dual races, as their machinery, most likely the 2022 cars with updates to make them compliant to new minor changes, wasn't good enough to make the race on speed. This assumption was right, as Yeley was slowest in the first qualifying group by almost 0.4 of a second. So it was all in the duels for the team to beat the other 5 non-chartered cars and capture one of the 4 open slots to get into the 500. Yeley's shot was in the first dual race, and so he had to beat the cars of Jimmy Johnson and Anthony Alfredo to lock himself in. Yeley was ahead of Johnson and Alfredo going into the final turn, and with Johnson behind him in the 2-wide pack, it must have seemed an easy feat to keep Johnson behind for just a half lap more. But then, the worst case scenario for Yeley and the team struck, as his car slid up the racetrack to avoid hitting a slower Ross Chastain, and Johnson used this to get below and into the draft, cruising ahead and passing Yeley before the start-finish line, bumping him out of the 500 and denying NY Racing their first start in almost 2 years. Yaley was downtrodden after the duel, saying, "It's definitely tough, especially for these NY Racing guys. I mean, I got the call Monday night to come drive a race car. Obviously disappointed." This mirrored Yaley's luck in the last few Daytona 500s, where he failed to make the race, with his disappointment summed up with him saying, "This one hurts just as much as it did 2 years ago to be within a lap and to get knocked out." While NY Racing were down, they were not out, as they announced on Instagram their plans to run the third race of the season in Vegas, continuing with Yaley as their driver. The third race of the season in Las Vegas, the NY Racing car had a whole new black look, with Urban Youth Racing School as a sponsor, and had typical NY Racing performance, with Yaley qualifying last and running in the bottom 5 for the entirety of the race, only gaining TV time when being lapped. The only positive part is that Yaley completed all the race without crashing or having mechanical issues, albeit 34th, 5 laps down. If it seems like I've put the blame on Yaley for the unremarkable performance of the team, that's not my intention at all. Yaley is an accomplished driver in many forms of motorsport who has dragged many backmarker cars into the spots not befitting them whatsoever. The NY Racing cars are just that bad. But so is the fate of just another underfunded small team trying to duke it out with the big dogs of NASCAR and a millionth of the budget. This is the end of the story so far, and thank you for watching this overview into the return of NASCAR's missing team. I might do some update videos as the season goes on, so if you want to follow, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when those go out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.